mean, I'm happy just to do this with you. I'm enjoying it. But is there anything in particular you want to talk about, or?
Let's see, what do I want to? What does a person need from you, John, through conversation? You know,
What do you mean?
I don't know. You said like, what do I want to talk about? Like, what's the best use of a conversation? Do you think?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I mean, it should be responsive to whatever issues people are, dealing with in their lives. That, insofar as they're trying to cultivate wisdom and and enhance meaning.
Well, let's talk about wisdoms. That sounds good.
Okay, let's talk about wisdom. What do you want to talk about? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm doing the psychology of wisdom course right now.
the psychology of wisdom. Let
Yeah.
me think about that for a second. So, is it how the mind thinks wisely, or the history of the psychology of wisdom, or?
Uh, well, I mean, I mean, the history is part of it, but it's so. Here's the idea: the course is actually a course on higher cognitive processes, and
Okay,
these
great.
are things like self-regulation, self-deception, rationality, cultivating character, sense of identity. Like the higher cognitive processes, the ones we most identify with. And my proposal was, well, we shouldn't study them piecemeal. We should study them as they are, which is how they really integrate with each other. Well, what's a way of studying them how they integrate with each other? Well, that's wisdom. And we should acknowledge the fact that they're not just like other cognitive processes. We identify with them. Well, where have we identified with our cognitive processes? Well, under wisdom. And we need to study them developmentally, and right. And how do we talk about the development and the enhancement of our higher cognitive processes? Traditionally, we have called that wisdom. So that's the idea, that we can study the higher cognitive processes as wisdom. And that's the best way to study the higher cognitive processes and make them both individually and culturally relevant, make that study individually and culturally relevant to people. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that's right, because it's wisdom has to be situational, right? By definition,
Yeah.
it is, right? So if you abstract away too much, then you're missing the point almost.
So I mean, that's part of the, well, that would be part of the history going into it. So the Greeks have two words for it, Sophia and phronesis. And phronesis is about that contextual sensitivity, but Sophia is about also grasping the cross-contextual principles. And so the wise person can both grasp the big picture and relate it, specify it for this particular situation as needed. Uh, and that's very, very interesting to me, because that looks like a higher order version of relevance realization, where you're trying to balance off generalizing for cross-contextual and particularizing for the specific context. So I'm trying to understand wisdom, rationality, intelligence, and relevance realization on a continuum. And that's part of what the course is doing.
And so is this something that I'm going to enact, or is this something I do when I kind of reflect away and then make decisions, or like?
I think, I mean, I don't think it's I don't think it's an either or. I mean,
Okay.
what you're after as a wise individual is the capacity to become aware of your mental framing and how it's distorting or causing self-deception, affording insight, uh, but where that insight is not like a propositional description of the situation, but it's the configuration of your skills and your states of mind and your traits of character, so that you can most appropriately and optimally interact with that situation. It's something more like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I see. So it's perspectival and like participatory.
Yeah, and procedural. Yeah,
And yeah, procedural, because you can't do anything without procedural.
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I really, yeah. So that's great. So, do you try to learn wisdom by example, or through skill building, or through?
Well, the idea is that there are,
I guess you already
uh,
said by learning about the systems.
yeah, you do, and what you do is you also you want to find the most systematic presentation of those interventions that will be the most systemic in nature, both the most systematic and systemic in nature, in affording people overcoming self-deception and enhancing their capacity to be optimally connected to the world, where the world is both the world of their own body and mind, other people, and the natural world.
So, does that make sense? Let me think here.
So wisdom differs from knowledge in that knowledge overcomes ignorance, and wisdom is about overcoming self-deception.
So I heard you talk
Knowledge,
about pattern recognition, though. Isn't that like knowledge? It seems like that cross-contextual,
it is,
intra-contextual.
but where I would make the difference is uh, sometimes Keeks made the distinction between descriptive and interpretive knowledge. That confuses people. So I follow a similar distinction that's becoming prevalent in the philosophy of science right now, which is the distinction between knowledge and understanding. Now, that's not like it's not a clean line. They overlap, but they're not identical. And the
What's a
way
clear
that
example of knowledge, maybe?
a clear example of knowledge uh, would be, it could be something really prosaic, like that 2 + 2 = 4. So what that means,
So
knowledge
a fact is just a good example.
right. I was using a propositional example because those are the easier ones to talk about. But knowledge is mostly about evidence, that we have evidence that justifies a belief, or that we
Oh,
have.
great. So it's like it's a pluripotent evidence.
Yes, yes. Whereas understanding is the capacity to grasp the significance of what you know. So, should I apply this knowledge here? To what degree should I apply it? How should I apply it? When, where, with whom should I apply it? That's understanding. So that it's possible to sort of put it a little bit sloganistically. Knowledge is about evidence for overcoming ignorance, and wisdom is about significance or relevance for overcoming self-deception, right?
Oh, I see that. I like the end part because then you say like, okay, to the degree to which I'm in the dark, I need some wisdom,
Yes.
and I should do that deeply with myself or with others, and I should
So
be clear about
so
my
try.
problem
Yeah,
formulation.
exactly.
Um,
The way you can get clearer is the thought experiment of doing the reverse. What Because we clearly state this. We say things like, here's a person who's highly knowledgeable but acts foolishly,
mhm.
right? And what we're pointing to is they have justified true beliefs, they have powerful skills, but they're not applying them as they should. They don't understand the significance of what they know.
So it really is just the insightfulness then, or at least a large degree of what's happening is like
Well,
you're.
exactly. And think about
Yeah.
how insight, I mean, the thing about insight is it's, a sudden improvement in understanding. And the classic insight problem, like the 9 dot problem, the facts aren't changing. What's changing is the relevance or the significance that you're giving to them, right?
No, I've cited Melissa Schilling's paper many, many times. It's one of my favorite
Yeah,
in
yeah,
all of
yeah,
psychology.
yeah,
It's a beautiful.
yeah.
She's such a clear writer. That's what I appreciate probably the most. I mean, besides the actual ideas, is it's so
Yeah.
readable. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the well, because it has to be the case, right? That like the world doesn't change, so it must be my framing.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So, I mean, wisdom is more about insight and understanding than it is about evidence gathering, argumentation, and justification.